We are live. Okay. So once again, we are live. I want to thank everyone for showing up. My name is Maya Tsogo Onana. I'm a graduate student in American Studies at the University of Wyoming, and I have the pleasure of introducing this event for the Black Studies Center entitled Cinematic Realism and Historical Revisionism, a conversation with Mrs. Akua Njeri. Mrs. Akua Njeri is an American writer and former member of the Black Panther Party. And also we have the pleasure of having two University of Wyoming students, Ms. Douglas and Ms. Hunt, who partake in this conversation. Hope you enjoy it.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. So first of all, we are about to get started in what I know to be. Let me take a step back. I've been here 5 years. That means that's probably 4 years too long. But this particular conversation is for all of you young folks, and we have the majority of the class here, something that you can't buy, something I'm sure you didn't see coming from signing up for this class. This will be something that if you permit, and if depending on your degree of acceptance, will be the reason you signed up for this class. To have this moment at this time and to understand who we brought out tonight, and more importantly, who thought it was important to come out. No person better, because you've seen a lot of things about Chairman Fred Hampton. You have heard some things, and some of you have heard absolutely nothing. We're going to make this tonight something that will be unforgettable. Going back to how I want to place this to you, depending on your degree of acceptance, of a counter narrative to what you know as the mainstream discourse, you will be enlightened. Hopefully, you will be put into a place, we call it the valley of decision, where you become wise. But I don't think that I could do any more for anybody tonight than to introduce you all to Mrs. Akua Njeri, one of my favorite people on the planet, hands down, and to understand her and her positionality. This is what I call making history tonight at the University of Wyoming. Ms. Douglas is here, Ms. Hunt is here. So we're going to have a conversation with the great one tonight about many different issues. But again, we want to thank you so much for spending your time and coming out, and we really appreciate you. So everybody put your hands together and welcome. So how you feeling?
I'm great. Thank you for that tremendous intro. Is Jordan going to say something? Jordan said she was going to intro me. Yeah. Okay. But I'm glad to be here. And Dr. Dixon, I'm going to address you formally now. I appreciate the invitation, and I love, respect, and appreciate you. So once you ask me, I say, okay, it's good, and that's the way it is. So I'm glad to be here and to have this discussion.
Okay, well, let's start it like this. Many folks think about the Black Panther Party and don't have a complete or thorough understanding of what the Black Panther Party meant to social movements, how it is now still this space that set the pace for what we know that became behind it eventually, Black Lives Matters and other kinds of disrupting in the mainstream narrative. So if you could give us an overview about the importance of the Black Panther Party, and that's a great place to start.
Okay, well, I was a member of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, And I worked on the finance cadre under the
Please take
leadership
your notes, you all. Please take your notes.
of Lieutenant Barbara Sankey. May she rest in peace, who kind of guided me along the way, in addition to the tremendous education that I got in this process and working under the leadership of Chairman Fred Hampton, who was assassinated on December 4th, 1969. And he was only 21 years old. But we have to start at the beginning of the party when Minister Huey P. Newton and Chairman Bobby Seale co-authored the Black Panther Party. Minister Huey was the Minister of Defense. Bobby Seale was the chairman, the international chairman, the international Minister of Defense of the Black Panther Party that started in Oakland, California in 1966. I'm not good with dates, but they began to organize, and the first point of organizing was against police brutality that has come to be known in this period as police terrorism. And why police brutality? Well, of the many arms of the state, the police is the first intro most oppressed people get to the United States government, whether they vote, whether they're educated, whether they're not, whether they poor or whatever. The police that function as an occupying army in colonized, oppressed communities were nationally, they were everywhere. And we began to organize around different issues of police shooting people, unarmed people, much is the same that many groups have done in this period, but not the same in that the Black Panther Party had a political line, a political structure, and was governed by what we call democratic centralism. It was an organization. It was not just a bunch of people running around, got a tam and a black leather jacket and some combat boots and said, okay, I'm a Black Panther. You had to go through 3 to 6 weeks of political education before you could even say you were a Panther. And we had political education classes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without fail. And everybody had to be there. It was open to the public too. And we read Frantz Fanon, Chairman Mao. But our real education came in the door-to-door organizing that we did to put survival programs in place in order to give people an opportunity to participate in their own fight for liberation. This was a period when people would say, oh, you can't fight City Hall. Oh, the white man ain't gonna let you do this. Oh, the government is omnipotent. What are y'all gonna do with some guns and some TAMs? And we said, we're gonna organize the people because our motto is power to the people. And people don't have the power automatically. They have to fight to get it. You know what I'm saying? Because we live as an oppressed colony inside the boundaries of the United States. Okay, you can interrupt me anytime. You see I'm going on. Have I given you kind of an idea of what the Black Panther Party was?
Absolutely. Thank you for the intro. And just to put it further in the content, when we think about 1966, this is when the social movement of the 60s is shifted from civil rights to Black power. How did the Black Panther Party quicken and fasten that shift? And what did that look like to see conservative Christian men of the civil rights movement have to make way for a much younger population that wasn't necessarily going to march in the same way or march by the same drum?
Well, there was a young man named Willie Mikasa Ricks who was a part of SNCC, and he organized people to register to vote, right, down in the South. And he joined SNCC in a pool hall. He was in a pool hall and saw a demonstration going by, and he went and joined, and he would go anywhere and everywhere, organizing the people registered and vote, work very closely with Fannie Lou Hamer and other leaders that stood out then. And Willie Mikasa Ricks is the person when they was marching. Stokely Carmichael Kwame Ture said, "What the people, what they want," and Mikasa said, "Man, they want Black power," and that's where that term came from. The SNCC organization in registering the people to vote, they took the symbol of a Black Panther. Why did they do that? Because the Black Panther was an animal that was not an aggressor, but defended to its death his right to live and to defend his family and his community. And they understood that at that point, people weren't reading very much, and they needed a powerful symbol, if you will, to stand for the Peace and Freedom Party of Lowndes County, and they chose the Black Panther. When the Black Panther Party became in, they got permission from SNCC to use the Black Panther logo and start, not permission to get the party started, but to use the logo. And from there, again, the Black Panther was an animal that related to self-defense and not as an aggressor in the community. And that electrified the minds and the bodies of young people all over. Now, there was some what we call old people in the party too, because we used to say after you 25, you're over the hill and time to retire. That's when we 16, 17, 18, and 19. And there was some older people, if you will, that were in the party. But to be a party member, you had to go through so much of political education before you could even represent, even talk about about the ideology of the party and what the work was. Anybody could sell the papers though, but they couldn't profess to be a Black Panther. And the only time they could do that is when we had a rally and chairman would say, "Don't be running them rally Panthers out here. That the state don't know how many are Panthers, how many just come to rallies. Let them sit in here too." But we did run the police out because they had various Black colored police, if you will, to try to come into the rallies and try to infiltrate. And when we became aware of them, we kindly removed them. So it was some that were struggling in SNCC with Dr. King to say, when can we start fighting back? Because, you know, when you're in SNCC, you get trained to you get attacked by dogs, you get hosed, you get beat down, and so many people were murdered and disappeared during that period that were never heard of again, you know. So it was what they had to learn how to control their emotions and, you know, take the arrests and then get bonded out. The Black Panther Parties was originally named the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, and then it became later the Black Panther Party. Did I answer that?
Yes, absolutely. I know to look at the Black Panther Party and to understand its legacy and to look at how the mainstream media has disrupted the legacy and nullified in some ways its righteous understanding of socialism and the way that we look at that compared to capitalism. Think about the role that the media has and continues to play to be a part of a misunderstanding or a miseducation. Could you just tell us the role that we should know? And we assume that we know very little, and it could fit on the head of a pin about the role of the media, particularly with this crafting and shaping of this false narrative of the Black Panther Party.
Well, let me say first that when I joined the Black Panther Party, one of the questions that I had, well, what about the Black police? You know, and we had to, through our political education, again, as it was a minimum 3 times a week, but we constantly were being educated. We had to understand that the pigs, the police department, was an arm of the state, put in oppressed and colonized community, not to serve and protect the interests of the people, but to serve and protect the interests of the state, and against that was in direct contradiction to the interests of the people. Okay, we also had to learn that the media was also an arm of the state to maintain the status quo, to build the state up, and everybody else was a criminal. You know what I'm saying? Unless you were step in line with the police. So the Black Panther Party rose up in a period when in Chicago, then Mayor Daley, under who had appointed Edward V. Hanrahan, the state's attorney, had championed this war on gangs. And under this guise, the Black Panther Party was deemed a gang. There were a lot of misinformation, like some places they said that we had to kill a white person every week to join the Panthers. They said that we were robbing the community. They said that we were setting fires and what do they call it? For our breakfast program, they said that we were like, you know, jacking people up and forcing them to donate. So the thing was, the Black Panther Party had a newspaper. And the Black Panther Party has set up survival programs based on the 10-point platform and program, what we want, what we believe. And with that, were able to counter a lot of that. Also on the television, you would see Malcolm X talked about you go to a demonstration and participate, and then you go and look at the 10 o'clock news. It's a whole different program that you see, like, I was at that demo. That's not what happened, you know. Or they would show, when they show white people that are being arrested, they're with a lawyer. When you see Black people are being arrested, they're disheveled. They're in handcuffs. You know what I'm saying? And it automatically, oh yeah, they did it. They guilty. I know they did it. You know what I'm saying? It helps sway and add fire to this concept of this wild, crazy gang life that Black and oppressed people led, and the state was this omnipotent holy deity or something. You couldn't disrespect the state. You couldn't disrespect the law. You definitely could not disrespect the flag, and you had to go along. You're supposed to go along to get along. Well, oppressed people, Black people, were tired of going along to get along. And let me say this, aside from that, we have never been happy being oppressed. So the myth of a happy slave was dispelled a long time ago. Although we weren't familiar with what this thing called freedom really felt like from within the confines of the U.S., we knew that the conditions that we were forced to live under everywhere we were not productive to our even survival, with the life expectancy of Black people, colonized people, far lower than that of the life expectancy of white men and women. So the media had a whole campaign going all over, not just in Chicago, but all over the country and outside of the borders of the U.S. about these wild, violent Black Panthers who were armed. And, you know, in some states it was legal to carry arms, but the fear, in other places people had arms, but the fear of an armed, politicized group wrapped in an ideology influenced by communist, socialist, and African leadership, the Black Panther Party became nothing to mess with. As a matter of fact, J. Edgar Hoover, who was the director of the FBI, said that the Black Panther Party was the greatest threat to the internal security of this country.
He absolutely said that. We got Ms. Jordan Hunt and Ms. Naira Douglas. They have a couple questions, so I'm going to mute, and you guys can figure out who's going to go. Who wants to go first? Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm doing my research based off of the Chicago 7 trial movie. And so my first question was, to what extent does this term cinematic realism apply to the accurate depiction of corruption in the Chicago 7 trial?
First of all, I did not see the Chicago 7 trial movie.
Okay.
It was an insult. Did you see Judas and the Black Messiah?
I have not gotten a chance to view it yet.
Please. Well, let me switch to Naira. You didn't see the movie yet, but you saw the Chicago 7. Well, Naira, I got to ask you this. You see the difference in who played Chairman Fred in Judas and the Black Messiah and the difference in who played Chairman Fred in Chicago 7. They arrogantly did a story about Chicago 7 when Chairman Bobby Seale of the Black Panther Party was chained and gagged, and his family could not come in to see it. But they had talked to some actor to have him see. So I didn't go see it. I knew it would be garbage. I knew that it would be, these hippies and yippies as heroes. But none of them were chained and gagged. None of them, were refused. Their family refused to come into the court. We had demonstrations outside the courtroom. You see White Left speaking about the chaining and gagging of Bobby Seale and Chairman Fred talking about it. You know what I'm saying? We built a rally. It was packed all around the federal building, demanding the freedom, the release of Chairman Bobby Seale. So back to your question about Chicago 7, I can't frame my answer in that context because I didn't see the movie. I refused to see it. So Naira, you want to ask that question in the context of what you asked him about in terms of Judas and the Black Messiah?
My assignment, research isn't really on Judas and the Black Messiah. It's more on your perspective of being in the Black Panther Party and living through that night. So
But you saw the movie, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, that's all I want. See, let me say this. There are a lot of fake ass books, a lot of fake ass movies, a lot of fake ass misinformation, and I do cuss, that's out here about the Black Panther Party. As great as the Black Panther Party, the work that we did, this legacy is still under attack. Who the Black Panthers were, what you see all these little fake group popping up, and the first thing they'll say, oh, they're taking on the legacy of the Black Panther Party. They're not. None of them. None of them are. There have been groups that call themselves the Black Panther this, the Black Panther that. There have been groups that have taken whole different names and they've been welcomed by the media. One group, they had so much money they had raised and everything, and they didn't have the leadership. Would nobody take the leadership of it? Because it has so many shady things going down in that organization, which will remain nameless. But if you read the papers, you know what's happening. You know what I'm saying? If you look on the internet, you know what I'm saying? They got millions of dollars. It's people that came here to Chicago, talk to us an hour on the phone, and only give to certain groups as like vote or die, or getting somebody elected. But they would put on the T-shirt, take a knee, and do nothing to support the work that continues to defend and uphold the legacy of the Black Panther Party. Let me say this. The Black Panther Party Cubs is the organization doing that. That's chaired by Fred Hampton Jr., who was born 3 weeks after his father was assassinated. So it's so much garbage out there. Everybody say, oh, you should go see the movie. Oh, you should read the book. It's so much BS. You know what I'm saying? I'm too old to be going through all of that trash. You know what I'm saying? I've been through enough trash, enough arguing back and forth with people. Otherwise, I don't have the energy for it. You know what I'm saying? Is one guy, he interviewed me. I refused to interview with him. He's a professor somewhere now. Wanted to interview me for this book he did. And I said, no, you shiesty. I know it, And people went on and did the book with him. And everybody, the people in the party said, yeah, he was shiesty. I told y'all ass, but you didn't, pay attention. You could smell shiesty all on him. Just stuff, not I'm no psychic or nothing, but just the stuff he laid claim to that he did. Let me tell you, Chicago is a very, how do you say, segregated city, even to this day. You know what I'm saying? You got this group over here, that group over. It wasn't that long ago before black people didn't go on the north side. You understand? And we definitely didn't go into Bridgeport, where the Dailies built their fiefdom, on the lower end of the south west side. So, but now black people living all over the place, but it's still segregated, in terms of education, opportunity, and the machine still is in progress. But hopefully that's going to change soon. I'm knocking on wood. So I don't. Um, a lot of things you may ask me about in terms of, books and groups and stuff. I can't really say because I'm not a part of them, and I don't, you know, I don't dibble dabble with them.
The last time we spoke, you were telling me about how in the movie Judas and the Black Messiah they portrayed what's his name again? O'Neill to be Fred Hampton's best friend, and you told me that was actually very, very false.
Well, we had. Let me say this: when they were going to do the movie, uh, we got word of it that it was going to be filmed in Cincinnati, I think, in Ohio. I probably am wrong, but we made many trips there. But a group of people went there and said, wait a minute, how y'all gonna do this movie? And you haven't contacted Mama Akua, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. They're the ones carrying on the legacy. The first thing of the movie, it had the title, Jesus Was My Homeboy. And we like, huh? No, that's not gonna happen. Um, there was also that O'Neill and Chairman were friends, were good friends. That was not true. Now, the interaction that they had, most of that was not true because O'Neill was not appointed head of security by Chairman Fred. Chairman Fred even said, I'm not saying Chairman knew that he was an agent, but Chairman said, to the person at appointment, he might be your security, but he's not mine. And Chairman had a whole group of people. Now, O'Neill didn't have any rank to direct any activity with anybody, but he will pull people off into stupid shit. Like he came up with this plan to build an electric chair in the Black Panther office to electrocute anybody that's an informant. And he was an agent, informant, provocateur. But everybody said, O'Neill, that's crazy. He was just brushed off as crazy. He also said that the party should firebomb, shoot missiles at City Hall. Yeah, O'Neill, that's some dumb shit. That is really crazy. You know what I'm saying? But after it was revealed that O'Neill was an agent, informant, and as a matter of fact, provided the diagram to our apartment to indicate where Chairman Fred slept. Oh, I knew that so-and-so was funny. I knew there was something wrong with him, this, that, and other. But if they knew, they should have, went to expose him. But he was not exposed until some lawyers stumbled into a courtroom. You know how lawyers go around trying to scoop up cases to make their money. You stumble into a courtroom where O'Neill was testifying against Stanley Robinson, who was a Chicago police, the Chicago pig, and him and O'Neill would go around. I'm trying to think of a hip word to say it. Stick up black businessmen on the West Side and rob them. Now, a couple of these black businessmen were murdered, and O'Neill testified for the FBI that he was on some of these killings with Robinson, but he never killed anybody. Now, any dummy know, if you, as a kid, you go in the store, steal something, you ain't gonna be the one stealing it all the time. Somebody else gonna be guilty too. You ain't going on no murder. I know ain't nobody out here been on no murder, but I'm just saying, you're not gonna go on no murder and you gonna stand there and watch while somebody just be shooting people and robbing them, right? They're gonna say, yeah, you take this gun too. You know what I'm saying? So Robinson got the time. O'Neill was in the court testifying against Stanley Robinson, who since got out of jail. And the lawyers happened to stumble in there, and that was O'Neill testifying for the state. Also, when the Eye on the Prize came out, they found O'Neill and interviewed him, and he talked about how he became a FBI informant. He viewed himself as O'Neill viewed himself as a FBI agent, and he looked to his contact. I can't think his name. His contact in the FBI as a father figure. He looked up to this white man that got him when he had did a hit and run, going to some after hours joint with no license, and they contacted O'Neill later and said, listen, we know you as such and such, you did such and such. So we want you to come in and join the Black Panther Party and give us information, which he did. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I also would like to rewind real quick, and I would really want to know the inside view of December 4th, 1969, when your fiance was murdered, and your point of view of that. Like, how was it to actually be in the room, to also be shot yourself? Could you describe that for us a little bit and tell us the story of that?
I'm about to leave you in the dirt, girl. First of all, he was not my fiance. He was my other half, my husband. We did not believe in the Black Panther Party that if you were fighting against an oppressive state, the United States government, which was an exploitive capitalist system where a few get all the money and the masses of people are workers or dirt poor and have no possibility of being middle class, wealthy, or even have many rights. We didn't believe that you could fight against this capitalist system and then go down to City Hall the next day and ask for permission to have a relationship. We thought that was criminal for people that did it, and we used to throw jelly beans at them. So the people that did go down there to the state to get married, they kept it secret. They didn't tell nobody. I found out about a couple of them, and they had me swear to secrecy. And I said, no, you got to tell the party that you went down there and did that. You know what I'm saying? But we did not, our relationships nor our right to fight for self-determination was never authorized or supported or condoned by the state. So let's get that clear. So we didn't adopt any of the trappings of it, including permission to have a relationship. As they said, marriage would be a relationship. So what was the other part of your question?
Basically to describe the night your husband was assassinated and also your encounter of that.
You're catching on. All right. Well, the night of December 3rd, we had a political education class. So I didn't go to the class because Chairman and I were supposed to go somewhere afterwards, but the class went on at 12 or 1 in the morning. So someone had come to pick me up from my friend's house, so we went back. Now, keep in mind, Chairman Fred had was out on ransom, you call appeal bond, for stealing $71 worth of ice cream from a Good Humor truck. And Chairman would make a joke about it and say, well, first of all, I'm a big guy. I can't eat no $71 worth of ice cream. Then later on, they said I gave it to the children. So they made me kind of a Robin Hood kind of thief. Even though the person that did this came forth and confessed, Chairman Fred was convicted of robbing a Good Humor truck and sentenced and sent down to Menard, which was a maximum security prison, which at the time they did chemical testing on inmates for these big pharmaceutical companies. You know what I'm saying? Without their consent or permission, without any promise if you take this drug that could kill you, you get out, if you live. None of that. You know what I'm saying? So Chairman went to Menard and he was out on appeal bond. So if anybody's been locked up for 5 minutes, you either withdraw when you get out or you try to make up for any lost time. Chairman Fred was going 500 miles a second trying to get the chapter straight, organize people to solidify and build and strengthen the survival programs, which every branch and chapter was mandated to set up in the cities where they were. Breakfast program, medical centers, free shoes and clothing giveaway, not as a charity, but to have the people come and participate in soliciting donations, of talking to the people, of distributing whatever, we were doing, distributing, making sure the children come to the breakfast. And the breakfast program was not just they come and eat. We would help the children with their homework. We would discuss what was happening in their communities, what the pigs function as, not officer friendly that come and get a cat out the tree, but as an occupying army in our communities. They come why the pigs beat up my daddy or my brother or my uncle, and they was just standing outside. And we had explained to him that that's what they call serving and protect the interests of the state. You don't have to be doing nothing. They beat up children. You know what I'm saying? This was going on, and arrest them, take them to the holding center. So that night, after the political education, I came back to our home, 2337 West End Monroe, and we got on the phone, and Chairman fell asleep on the phone. So I took the phone and said, "Well, he done fell asleep, because he would hardly ever sleep. He was trying to make up for that time he was locked up to get everything tight, with the party. You know what I'm saying? With the organization, and he was even being considered as to be on the National Central Committee of the party. He was a deputy chairman of the Illinois chapter, Black Panther Party. So when he didn't wake up, it didn't, alarm me. The first thing that I remember was someone coming into the rear bedroom shaking, Chairman, wake up. The pigs are vamping. About the same time, our bed is vibrating with bullets going into it. You could smell the cordite. Plaster was flying off the walls. They had at least 90% of the shots fired were aimed at the head of the bed where Chairman slept. The person kept saying, "Stop shooting. We got a pregnant sister in here." When the shooting started, I slid over on top of Chairman Fred. Chairman Fred didn't make any movement. He just turned his head, looked at my face, because by this time I was on top of him, and he just laid his head down in slow motion. Now, he was a big guy, but he moved really fast. And this was strange to me, that the slow, really like real slow motion thing was happening with him, lifting his head up slow and laying it back down slow. The pigs eventually stopped shooting, and the person that come into the room said, "We coming out." I remember crossing over Chairman Fred. I had his long underwear on, his robe, and slid into his shoes. And I kept saying to myself, "Don't stumble, don't fall. They're going to murder you and that baby. Just go slow, take it easy." And try to remember any facial things, like if they got a mustache, if they got a wart, if they got glasses, anything that you can about the pigs. They had lined up 2 lines into the entryway. They didn't come in the room. They stood outside the doorway in 2 lines. And as I came out with my hands up, walking slowly, one of the pigs grabbed my robe and pulled it open. They started laughing. Said, "Oh, what do you know? We got a broad here." I was very pregnant. Our son was born 3 weeks later. Another pig grabbed my hair and slung me into the kitchen area. And then another pig, a different pig, I keep saying another pig, a different pig handcuffed me. I heard a voice that was not from the occupants of the apartment say, "He's barely alive. He'll barely make it." Then they start shooting again. And then another pig voice that was not a member of the apartment, was not in the apartment, said, he's good and dead now. And I knew they were talking about Chairman Fred. I kept trying to remember every little detail of everything. Of course, I didn't. I remembered lots of stuff, but I couldn't remember all the faces. A few I did. And then they were arguing over whose prisoners we did. We belonged to the Chicago pigs, the state's attorney. Who's going to take us in? So they handcuffed us, and they was taking me out of the from the kitchen area. They decided we'll go out through the front of the house. Now, handcuffed behind my back, I refused to look towards our bedroom because I didn't know what I would see or how I would respond. And I knew I couldn't lose it. So I'm walking, I get to the living room, and Defense Captain Mark Clark from Peoria, Illinois, who had come to Chicago, everybody was required to come in to tighten up their programs from their respective cities and to get more political education and instruction. Defense Captain Mark Clark had been shot in the heart, and he lay on the floor in a pool of blood. And they took us out to the paddy wagon. Now, if you ever been to Chicago, you know in December, it is freezing cold. It was freezing cold. And they took us, they charged us with attempted murder and aggravated assault. And only one possible shot could have been fired from the occupants of the apartment. This is not what I'm saying. This is by the trajectories that the state did and put in the holes in the wall to see where the bullets were going. They, these long sticks they put in the bullet holes. These trajectories showed that 90% of the gunfire was aimed at the head of Chairman Fred's bed. The people all over the world, there were demonstrations in France, London. People came from all over the country because they wanted to see for themselves what happened while this fool, Edward V. Hanrahan, this pig, was state's attorney who had been mentored by Daley Sr., the then mayor, to be the next in charge because he knew his son, Junior, Daley Jr., was too dumb to handle it. He was grooming Hanrahan, who came to rise in power as this leader of this war, champion the cause of this war on gangs, in which he used to attack the Black Panther Party and other groups, in the city of Chicago. So people were lined up to come to see what happened, and they could see from the trajectories of the bullet and the blood that was still there that one lady, she said, they just kill them babies. We was 18, 19, 21. I had just turned, I don't remember if it was 18 or 19, but I had just turned in, and our son was born 3 weeks later. We was at the pig station. They was chanting around. The pigs they had the blanket that was on our bed. They had put it in plastic bag, and they was dancing around with chanting, Chairman Fred is dead. Chairman Fred is dead. And I found out Chairman Fred had been assassinated. Defense Captain Mark Clark had been assassinated. And about 3 or 4 other people were shot and wounded. I never sustained any wounds. They murdered Chairman Fred after they had pulled me out of the room when they said he's good and dead now. Well, that was supposed to put an end on this thing that we call the fight for self-determination, that we call fighting for freedom, that none of us have experienced within these confines of the U.S. And we continue to fight. And as I said before, the organization is fighting to defend the legacy and to fight to keep the history straight of the Black Panther Party and to carry on the work of the Black Panther Party is the Black Panther Party Cubs, which is led by Chairman Fred Hampton Jr.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. Jordan, I want to give you an opportunity to ask some of your questions as well. I got a few more, but I know we both trying to work together.
Yes.
All right. My second question is, how would you describe Chairman Fred's legacy of leadership?
Ooh, anybody that met him would say, when you hear that man speak, you know he telling the truth. When you hear that man speak, you know he not running no game. When you hear that man speak, you sit in awe because the words he used, he breaks things down so that it's relative to struggles that are happening all over the world. He had an enthusiasm, uh, a love for the people, and that was so. I mean, it would just engulf you. You know what I'm saying? You would feel like, dang, I'm complaining about going to the breakfast and this all of this work to do. You know, I gotta sell more papers. I gotta get people to volunteer at the getting medical supplies. All of this, you see, because you come in. I came in with my little part-time job and full-time school, and I'm, thinking I'm gonna work at the breakfast program. This, that. It was so much work to be done, and the joy that you see on those children when you talk to them about what's going on in it, not talk down to them like, you know, they couldn't understand what the purpose of the pigs was. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't understand why when they go to the grocery store with their mama, the meat is the chicken has been soaked in vinegar to take the rotten smell off of it, or why the meat has been to 2 stores before it get to theirs. They couldn't understand why they got them old ass books in their schools. You know what I'm saying? And they like, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? And we educated them and told them there's nothing wrong with us. It's an oppressive system that we're forced to live in that create these conditions. And it used to be a saying back then, ain't no kid in charge of planes and boats that's bringing drugs into the community. You know what I'm saying? And we would explain those things to the children, and they would go back and say, "Mama, Daddy, guess what them Black Panthers say? They say this, they say that, they say." So the parents have seen all of this stuff on the TV, all of this stuff in the newspaper, all this negativity about the Black Panther Party. The parents would come, and the first thing they want to know is the place clean? What we serving their children, right? We got on our hair nets and stuff. We clean the place before and we clean the place after. And the dishes are clean, the children, you know what I'm saying? It's a real nice thing. So the parents say, well, shoot. Then keep in mind, this was before any free breakfast or free school was introduced into any, any school system. For breakfast or free lunch didn't exist. So the Black Panther Party was the first to do that. A bunch of people that didn't have jack shit. They say in the old days, a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. These Black Panthers set up community centers, churches, wherever there was space. And we got donations. We said, look, if you're going to be in the community selling this stuff, we want better products. And we want donations to the breakfast program because everybody, all kind of big studies have been commissioned. Big bucks have passed hands to show that children cannot learn on an empty stomach. We didn't do no study. The Black Panther Party was mandated to establish breakfast program. And chairman would talk about that in his speeches, and chairman would be at the breakfast program. You come in the office and say, Chairman, I can't sell all these papers. It's really hard. He grab a bunch of papers and go out right in front of the office, walking between the cars, knocking on car windows, saying, hey, brother, hey, sister, you got the Black Panther newspaper. They got a story in here about such and such. You hear about that sister getting kicked in her door and said they was looking for drugs and they shot this pregnant girl? Same thing happened in California. He would talk about stories, issues that happened all through over the United States and other parts of the world and made them relatable to the people that was here. And he's the chairman of the party. He coming out here. He at the breakfast program. He's selling the newspaper. He knocking on the window. People read the paper and they would say, this guy is for real on this business. And he tried to make sure everybody that could get it will get it. And he never said there's pigs in the organization, but they're gonna be some hardworking pigs. They're not just coming in here in style and profile. They're gonna have to produce some work, and the work will eventually run their ass off. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Absolutely. Let us say that we understand when we hear the truth. And for you to take your time and allow for us to sit at your feet and understand in a much clearer term how the media, how the police, how every day there is a way that we are trained to interpret and respond to information, and then there's a way to discuss that makes you far more intelligent for folks you never meet. We can't thank you enough, Juan, for you taking your time and coming out to see us. But we do appreciate you more than you know. I think you wanted to say something, Mom?
Yeah, I want to say something. I know you appreciate me, son. And you know I love you. So I'm telling our listeners again, Jordan, Naira, I appreciate the work that y'all doing, but I don't give nobody no slack. You understand what I'm saying? I don't give nobody no slack. We have a young lady, kind of who she's part of the Rainbow Coalition that works with the Black Panther Party Cubs. She said, she told her, when I first met Mama, she was kind of mean. No, I just asked her some questions. You know what I'm saying? She had a baby with her. She just had her baby. They came to Chicago. They live on the res. You know what I'm saying? And I would ask her questions. She's been working and building in the indigenous community for over 20 some years now. It's the politicizing that she got through Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. The legacy of the Black Panther Party still, standing strong. I want to thank Jordan and Naira. We'll be chatting it up later. I want to thank everybody that came out, to hear this. And I thank everybody that allowed me to have this opportunity.
And we really appreciate you. Let's put our hands together.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you and your thoughts. Thank you again. And I will talk to you very soon.
Of course.
Thank you again. Jordan, Naira, thank you all. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Toby.
Thank you, Toby.
Thank y'all for letting me help.
Okay. Thank you.